On the way to finalize my divorce with Hu Cheng, an out-of-control bus crashed into us. When I opened my eyes again, we had returned to the day before our wedding. Faced with life's choices once more, we silently agreed to cancel the wedding, each notifying our respective sides. In our previous life, I was married to him for 5 years, only to be met with his lingering attachment to his first love. So in this lifetime, I chose to let him go. He married his first love and settled in Beijing, becoming a moderately famous writer within 5 years. During a book tour stop in my city, after Hu Cheng and his wife publicly flaunted their affection, he spotted me in a corner of the crowd, holding Shennan's hand. He walked over to thank me for my past generosity while teasing me about my current situation. "It's been 5 years, how come you're just getting by?" Shennan also laughed and said, "Isn't that normal? After all, not everyone is destined to stand out." But later, when my husband and I stood hand in hand before everyone, Hu Cheng's eyes turned red again. "How could you change your heart in just 5 years? Professor Hu, could you sign my book personally?" Amidst the silence, a fan's voice couldn't help but ring out. I froze momentarily. The Hu Cheng before me felt both familiar and strange. Familiar because his face looked almost unchanged from 5 years ago, yet strange because his demeanor had gained a touch of steadiness and restraint. These 5 years must have matured him quite a bit, and his career seems to be on the rise now. I think it's great. It's best if the two of us never cross paths again. But what's his situation now, Professor Hu? He stared at me intently for a long moment before snapping out of it at the fan's voice speaking up again. Then his expression suddenly relaxed, breaking into his usual gentle and amiable smile. "Of course, thank you for liking my book." The stagnant atmosphere melted away like spring rain with his words, and the surrounding fans immediately began murmuring softly, "Professor Hu is really so gentle. Yeah, perhaps only someone like him could write words that resonate so deeply with people. Professor Hu, I want an autograph too." The surrounding fans showered him with praise, calling him a young outstanding writer and the most influential novelist of the past 2 years. Meanwhile, they cast puzzled glances at me because I was dressed plainly and wore no makeup. Especially today, at his book tour's Shanghai stop, the large screen displayed not only the book cover and introduction but also intimate photos of him and his wife Shennan, showcasing her support during his creative process. A high-profile declaration of love. No one understood why Hu Chenghui suddenly stood up from the signing table and rushed over to me. Others might not know, but I certainly don't have a clue. I'm even puzzled. How did he spot me in the corner after 5 years apart? Does hating someone leave such a deep impression? But right now, I really don't want to attract any unnecessary attention. I lower my head and try to slip away. However, Hu Cheng doesn't seem inclined to let me leave just yet. He takes another step forward, blocking my path again. Frowning, I muster some patience and warn him, "Excuse me, I have things to do." Everyone was taken aback, not expecting my first words to be this. At that moment, murmurs spread through the crowd suggesting I was Hu Cheng's ex-girlfriend. In the next instant, the earlier praises for Hu Cheng turned into mocking remarks directed at me. "Isn't she the ex who dumped Professor Hu back then? Now that he's got a bright future, she's crawling back. Shameless. Blind and foolish." One of the fans' comments reached my ears, suppressing my anger. I repeated firmly, "Mr. Hu, step aside, you're disrupting my work." The people around me grew even more displeased upon hearing my attitude, accusing me of playing hard to get and pretending to be something I'm not. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I wasn't here to see Hu Cheng. I had other business to attend to. There was simply no need to explain anything to them. Hu Cheng could tell from my expression that I was on the verge of losing my temper. With a subtle gesture of his hand, he silenced the crowd's murmurs. "All right, everyone. Please don't speak of Miss Jiang that way. We merely happened to meet by chance. She didn't come here specifically for me. I'd appreciate it if you'd show some restraint." He spoke lofty words of consolation to me. Yet his veiled sarcasm implied how coincidental it was that I happened to appear here in this vast city at this exact moment. Naturally, his fans listened to him. Only after the crowd had dispersed somewhat did he take the initiative to greet me. 5 years apart. And you're living such an ordinary life. I wasn't sure what his definition of ordinary was, so I simply curled my lips and retorted, "That's none of Mr. Hu's business, is it?" He paused slightly, then shook his head. "Jiang Li, must you speak to me like this? If life isn't treating you well, you can come work as my assistant. It'd be better than what you're doing now." Before I could respond, Shannan emerged from behind the signing screen. She had been there all along. Though seemingly keeping her distance to avoid causing a scene, isn't that normal? After all, not everyone is destined for greatness. As she spoke these words, she naturally hooked her arm through Hu Cheng's while carrying her bag, her tone carrying mild disapproval. "Honey, do you really want her to be your assistant? Shouldn't we think it over?" Jiang Li has never done any editorial work before, and given her professional capabilities, Shannan's tone was gentle. But her words were laced with sarcasm, mocking my lack of ability and expressing dissatisfaction with Hu Cheng's decision to offer me the job. Hu Cheng seemed to want to say something more, but upon seeing Shannan's gaze, he quickly backed down. "Understood, it was just a suggestion." Shannan then turned to me with veiled sarcasm. "Miss Jiang, even though I know you're naturally beautiful, but coming to find Hu Cheng on such an occasion, you could at least dress up a bit. There are quite a few media around." She was mocking me for not wearing makeup and dressing plainly. I let out a cold laugh. Why does everyone think so highly of themselves? Seeing that I hadn't responded immediately, Shannan advised me again, her tone intimate, "If you ask me, it's better to find a man to marry sooner rather than later, while you're still young. Otherwise, who knows how you'll manage in the future. I'm just being blunt, Miss Jiang, don't take offense. But wouldn't landing a wealthy husband be just the thing to change your current situation?" At the mention of a wealthy son-in-law, I raised my eyebrows slightly and took the initiative to speak. "Oh, I wonder if Miss Shen has any good recommendations. I'd love to work hard and change my current situation." Hu Cheng's expression darkened upon hearing this. Shannan hadn't expected me to seize the opportunity and was momentarily stunned before coldly replying, "How would I know someone like that? Besides, I'm already married to Hu Cheng, so I hope you'll stop fantasizing about him." A few fans nearby burst into laughter at her words. Admittedly, my presence here as an ex-girlfriend was somewhat inappropriate. I was at a loss for words and could only helplessly explain after a long pause. "Didn't I already say I just happened to be here? I didn't even know Hu Cheng's book had been published. Do you really have to smear me like this?" "How could it be such a coincidence?" Hu Cheng asked softly in return. I let out a long sigh and casually brushed it off. "Work, Mr. Hu the great writer. I have a job too." At this point, I turned my head to look at Shannan. "As for what you said about me deluding myself over him, rest assured, Miss Shen, I don't go back to graze on old pastures." Hu Cheng's expression darkened momentarily, but then eased. It seemed he mentally allowed me my stubbornness, leaving me baffled. His confidence was truly overbearing. "All right, Jiang Li, there's no need to say these things just to save face." Hu Cheng found me dull, but he also had no intention of continuing the conversation with me. After saying that, he added, "Since your staff leave now, you're somewhat delaying the normal progress of the signing event." Looking at his arrogant demeanor, I knew he hadn't changed at all, still the same self-centered performer. As for Shannan, she remained just as unpleasant as ever. The two of them truly are a perfect match, exceptionally well suited for each other. Just now it was clearly him who came over and blocked my way. How did it suddenly become me disrupting the book signing? I couldn't be bothered to argue further and turned to leave. But Hu Cheng spoke up again. "I heard the owner of today's event venue is coming down to inspect. As staff, you'd better not slack off and cause any embarrassing scenes." With that, he turned away with Shannan. Watching their intimate figures, I suddenly thought of my past life. In my past life, Hu Cheng and I were actually quite compatible at first. We met in college, went through a long-term relationship, got married, and hardly had any conflicts in our daily lives. I just didn't know he still had a first love all along. Shortly after marriage, he began chasing his dream of becoming a great writer. I supported his career wholeheartedly, while he was busy pursuing his ambitions. I took care of our small home, hardly ever letting him worry about family matters. We always treated each other with respect. Yet after 5 years of marriage, His attitude toward me suddenly changed following a return trip from the publishing house. The way he looked at me grew chillingly cold. That day, I assumed his manuscript had been rejected again, but when I tried comforting him, he snapped at me angrily. "Forget it. My dreams are meaningless. Don't say anything more, Jiang Li." Deep down, "You don't believe in me either, do you?" After that, Hu Cheng became somewhat despondent. He stayed at home for months without going out. Before, he would take on some freelance work to help with household expenses, but later, I ended up supporting us entirely. I once tried to salvage things, asking him what was really going on, but he pushed me away, blaming me for disrupting his bursts of inspiration every day. In the end, we tormented each other for over half a year until our relationship finally broke down, and we divorced. Watching their retreating figures, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. It seems Shen Nan doesn't disrupt his bursts of inspiration. Now he's even published and has fans. Clearly, we just weren't right for each other. Hu Cheng took a few steps forward, then turned back to find me standing frozen in place, his expression visibly darkening. "Jiang Li, have you changed your phone number?" My thoughts were interrupted, and I instinctively shook my head. Then, with a ding from my phone, I received a transfer notification. A full six-figure sum. I froze momentarily, staring at him in confusion. "Take the money and leave quickly. Don't linger here being an eyesore. Isn't compensation all you wanted?" Hu Cheng's tone was harsh, his gaze full of disdain as he looked at me. At this point, I was starting to get angry. How many times do I have to repeat myself? "I'm not here for you. Coming here wasn't for your sake." These words clearly didn't reassure Hu Cheng, while Shen Nan stood by, sneering sarcastically. "Then who else could it be for? Don't tell me you're here to hook a big boss. No, is there anything else in your head besides big bosses?" I couldn't help but laugh helplessly, feeling my temples throb from their relentless questioning. Despite my repeated denials, I failed several times to explain my actual role as staff member, and their patience was visibly wearing thin. Just as they were about to say more, a tall man in a well-tailored suit approached, surrounded by an entourage. His features were strikingly sharp, and combined with his height and impeccable suit, he truly cut an impressive figure with outstanding presence. Whispers spread through the crowd identifying him as the owner of this commercial complex, not just this one property, but many large shopping malls across the city. He'd gained particular fame in recent years for his handsome appearance. The man's face was cold as his gaze swept around, seemingly finding his target. Without paying attention to anyone's comments, he walked straight toward me. Hu Cheng and Shen Nan initially thought he was coming for them. Instantly feeling excited, Shen Nan even whispered, "Brother Hu, is he here for you? Does the heir of Cheng Corporation also read your books?" Although Hu Cheng didn't say much, he couldn't help but feel smug, waiting with restrained anticipation for the man's next move. The surrounding fans also fell silent in tacit agreement. This man was the type who naturally drew all attention the moment he appeared, and he clearly took it for granted. The man walked up to us and, under Hu Cheng and Shen Nan's expectant gazes, unexpectedly bypassed them both, in full view of everyone. He took my hand. At that moment, a faint smile finally appeared on his face, as beautiful as melting ice and snow, before he asked me gently, "Ali, what's going on? Why are so many people gathered here? Are you in trouble? Did Cheng Mu just hold her hand? How could this be? What's her status? It couldn't be the one who had that high-profile wedding abroad years ago, could it?" The others were incredulous, staring dumbfounded, unable to believe that the big boss would be so intimate with an ugly duckling like me. Cheng Mu, however, paid them no heed and couldn't help but chide me. "Why didn't you wait for me to come together? There's no need for you to personally inspect such a place. What if you get tired? You didn't even let the driver bring you." I irritably straightened his suit collar for him, then gave him a light punch. "What if I didn't come? Last time there was already an issue when the manager ordered the glass. This time I had to be here. Why did you come out without dressing properly?" "I wanted to see you too much. Couldn't wait." Cheng Mu blinked innocently, clearly enjoying this intimacy from me, then leaned in closer to wrap his arms around me. He rested his chin on my shoulder, giving me a hug, and whispered softly by my ear, "Missed you, sis. His words made my ears turn slightly red. Even though we're an old married couple, I still felt a bit embarrassed by such talk in public, so I gave him a warning look to tone it down. The venue borrowed for this book signing event is one of Cheng Mu's commercial halls. Actually a very small project that we usually hardly pay any attention to. It's just that during the 2-year construction process, we ended up with a manager who had ulterior motives, which is why I came secretly this time to inspect. That's also the reason I couldn't reveal my identity earlier. I just wanted to share some of your burden, see how the venue is being set up, and check if all the details have been taken care of. And you're scolding me. You're usually exhausted enough as it is. I softly explained why I didn't wait for him to come together. Cheng Mu raised his eyebrows slightly and tried to nuzzle against my face again, but I shyly pushed him away. All right, there are people watching. Our playful flirting left the bystanders stunned. No one expected Cheng Mu, the decisive, aloof big boss and heir to the Cheng Group, to behave like this in private. Among these shocked onlookers, Hu Cheng was especially dumbfounded. It took him quite a while to accept the reality before his eyes. Shen Nan's expression turned ugly, and her fans were left speechless. Are you kidding? Who would dare to speak disrespectfully to someone from the Cheng Group? Do they have a death wish? After snapping out of his daze, Hu Cheng's face seemed to twist momentarily before he managed to soften his tone and speak softly to me. Jiang Li. What's your relationship with this Mr. Cheng? What's it to you? Before I could utter a word, Cheng Mu inexplicably turned his head and coldly questioned him, then seemed to recall something and kissed me right then and there. His meaning couldn't have been clearer. For a moment, a few gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. Having grown up abroad, he'd never been one to hide such straightforward affection. All right, someone's getting a bit too clingy, with a coquettish huff. I pushed him away and handed the inspection report to the assistant behind him. Without responding to Hu Cheng, Cheng Mu and I turned to leave. From start to finish, I didn't spare either of them a single glance. After exiting the mall, I felt somewhat embarrassed. There were so many people just now. Cheng Mu showed no trace of remorse on his face and spoke childishly. What's wrong with kissing my own wife? It's perfectly natural. Besides, I did it specifically for that Hu guy to see, who told him to look at you so strangely earlier. You're such a child. I smiled and tugged at his face, not really angry. Cheng Mu must have recognized Hu Cheng instantly just now, and pretending to walk towards their direction was intentional. He knew Hu Cheng was my ex-boyfriend, but after this little episode, I didn't dwell on the slight unhappiness I felt earlier. After all, it's been a long time since then. And Hu Cheng and I belong to different worlds now. There won't be any more intersections in the future. As I was thinking this, Cheng Mu and I walked to the car and were just about to get in when a voice called out to us. Jiang Li, wait. We turned around to see Hu Cheng rushing out of the hall, calling my name breathlessly. Is there something you need with my wife, Mr. Hu? Cheng Mu turned around, glaring at him with an unfriendly expression. Hu Cheng was panting heavily, finally catching his breath enough to speak, only to be interrupted again by Cheng Mu. Whatever it is, I'm afraid it'll have to wait. My wife is busy right now. She needs to accompany me home for dinner immediately, and we're flying abroad together tonight. Oh, right, I forgot to mention. We've actually been married for several years now, and we're especially a feck. Before he could finish, I covered his mouth, shooting him an annoyed glare. Cheng Mu obediently fell silent, but his expression remained sour. As if a whole vat of vinegar had been smashed, Hu Cheng was slightly taken aback by our intimate gestures. Then after a moment, he gathered his courage and said, Jiang Li, can we talk alone? I nodded and then gave Cheng Mu a little push. It was clear he wanted to stay with me, but at my nudge, his non-existent dog ears seemed to droop as he reluctantly got into the car. Before getting into the car, he shot Hu Cheng a glare full of hostility, his expression turning icy as he tossed out a remark. 10 minutes, he appears domineering and threatening, but the underlying message is that he'll get jealous and angry after 10 minutes. The kind that can't be coaxed back. Thinking of this, I can't help but feel a little amused. Hu Cheng and I walked a few steps further away before I spoke coldly. All right. Say whatever you need to say here. My husband is still waiting for me. Hu Cheng hesitated for a long time but seemed unable to find the words. Seeing him like this only made me more impatient. I frowned and urged, "Just say it, haven't we been divorced for ages? What difference is there between us and strangers now? What could you possibly not say?" Hu Cheng's eyes instantly reddened at my words, as if he'd suffered great injustice, his voice hoarse as he spoke. "How could you change your heart after just 5 years?" I was torn between laughter and tears, thinking he actually had something important to tell me, only for it to be this. Immediately my tone turned sharp. "What's it to you? You're married now, of course I'll love whoever I choose. How is it none of my business? Didn't you promise before that you'd only love me?" Hu Cheng frantically came up with excuses, but I immediately shook off his hand that had just touched mine, finding it utterly ridiculous. At the book signing earlier, I had spared him some dignity because his fans and wife were present, but now, I couldn't hold back my anger and lashed out. "What kind of joke is this? In our past life, it was you who kept picking fights and refused to live peacefully after marriage. And in this life, you're the one who turned away first. You broke up with me and married Shen Nan within months, and now you dare to hypocritically blame me. Hu Cheng, you disgust me." After saying this, I turned to leave. Hu Cheng hesitated for a moment before also losing his temper and shouting angrily, "You're only with Cheng Mu for his money. What kind of decent person could someone like him be?" I glared at him furiously. "So what? Do I have to do worse than you for you to be happy? Then you can pity me with some lousy assistant job and feel like you've succeeded in life." Hu Cheng seemed to be struck right at his core by my words, stammering incoherently for a moment before finally managing a retort. What can I say when you latch onto someone like that? Jiang Li, I never expected you to be such a morally corrupt person. Who knows what methods you used to climb up? Do you really think he would?" His impassioned tirade was cut short by a cry of pain as he suddenly collapsed to the ground. "Shut your damn mouth." Cheng Mu kicked him to the ground, his face icy cold. The emotionless gaze he cast downward was a stark contrast to how he had been acting spoiled with me earlier. I could tell he was genuinely angry, so for the moment, I didn't stop him. This is too much." Hu Cheng lay on the ground. Glaring up at him fiercely, Cheng Mu stepped in front of me, bowing politely with a cold tone. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hu, your words just now have infringed upon the reputation of me and my wife. I could sue you." Then he paused and shrugged. "As for other things, having money is just one of my advantages. You can't compare to me in other aspects either." At this point, the atmosphere became tense. Seeing neither of them willing to back down, I pretended to be angry and scolded Cheng Mu. "Why did you suddenly resort to violence? It wasn't necessary. If I hadn't done that, he would have said even worse things just now. Ellie, you're my wife. How could I let you be humiliated? The way he insulted you was unbearable." Cheng Mu didn't care in the slightest, casting a disdainful glance at Hu Cheng. "Besides, the reason I've come this far is because of you, gold digger, social climber. Is that how he sees you? We dated openly and got married fair and square. How is this possible? How could she possibly know someone from your social class?" Hu Cheng muttered to himself that it couldn't be. But the truth was exactly as it seemed. When I first met Cheng Mu, his father had just passed away, and he had recently returned from abroad. No one in the Cheng family thought much of this young master, and the Cheng family's vast fortune was being voraciously eyed by relatives like wolves and tigers. In my previous life, I had only crossed paths with him once professionally. I remembered vividly how, despite his ambitions, the complicated family situation left him completely unable to flex his muscles, so when I was reborn, I went straight to him, wanting to give him a hand. At first, I just wanted to find myself a promising boss. Helping him was also helping myself. Developing feelings was actually something unexpected. Over these 5 years, I've used the information gap from my past life to help him catch every wave, which not only saved Cheng Group from falling apart but also built Cheng Mu an even greater business empire. "Honey, go back and wait for me first. Don't worry, it won't happen like that again." I softly comforted him with a hint of coquetry, finally smoothing Cheng Mu's ruffled feathers. After seeing him off to the car, I turned to Hu Cheng with a cold expression and said, "No matter what I said in my past life, it's over between us, Hu Cheng. Don't come to see me again unless you want me to personally destroy your dream of becoming a writer." Hearing this, Hu Cheng suddenly became agitated and roared, "Fine, Jiang Li, go ahead and destroy it. You've already done it once before, I don't mind it happening again. Isn't that just the kind of woman you are? Stop pretending to be virtuous." I stood stunned for a long moment before asking in confusion, "What are you talking about? When did I ever do such a thing? What? You dare to do it but not own up to it?" Hu Cheng let out a bitter laugh. "Wasn't it you who submitted identical manuscripts to the publisher in advance last time, causing my work to be judged as plagiarism? After that, no publisher would trust me again." I was baffled, suddenly recalling his abrupt change in attitude toward marriage. "What are you talking about? Not to mention I just found out about this. Even if I had known back then, it definitely wouldn't have been me. What good would it do me?" As I denied with a rhetorical question, Hu Cheng refused to believe me. With tears in his eyes, he looked at me and said, "Apart from you, I only showed the manuscript to Shen Nan. How could it be her? Jiang Li, can you stop pretending? What benefit would I gain from stopping you from becoming famous?" "I was your wife at the time," I shouted absurdly, but Hu Cheng couldn't respond coherently and only stammered, "Maybe you resented me for being too busy with work to spend time with you. That's why you resorted to such a desperate measure." Hearing this, I refused to accept his excuse and immediately pressed forward, gritting my teeth as I spoke. "Why would you think that? Who told you?" Hu Cheng met my gaze and instinctively took a few steps back. "It was Shen Nan." I stopped in my tracks, feeling nothing but absurdity. 5 years of emotions were shattered by Shen Nan's mere words. For a moment, I couldn't tell if Hu Cheng was foolish or something else entirely. But the most straightforward reason was simply that he never loved me. In this marriage, I've exhausted myself countless times with self-doubt, wondering what I did wrong to cause its failure. Now the truth is finally clear. It was all because of Shen Nan's few words of sowing discord. Hu Cheng, we lived together for 5 years. Search your conscience. Where did I, Jiang Li, ever fail you? When I was your wife, I wanted your dreams to come true more than anyone else." After saying these words, I took a deep breath to suppress my sobs. Having nothing left to say to him, I turned and walked away to get in the car. In the rearview mirror, Hu Cheng stood dejectedly in place, silent for a long time. After that day, I didn't see Hu Cheng for a long time. Who would have thought that not long after, Hu Cheng actually had a scandal? For a while, hot searches came one after another, reportedly because paparazzi captured footage of him physically abusing Shen Nan. I clicked into the video and immediately understood why his downfall was so swift. Typically, such expose videos are blurry, leaving room for speculation and debate, but Hu Cheng's video was crystal clear. Even zoomed in 3 times, his face was unmistakably recognizable. After this video went viral, Hu Cheng's carefully cultivated image as a devoted husband collapsed overnight. Numerous fans on his social media accounts unfollowed him, and his books were pulled from major bookstore shelves. Now completely unavailable for purchase, the internet erupted in condemnation of him. Cheng Mu held me close, and upon hearing me recount the incident, let out a cold laugh. "Truly, you can know a person's face but not their heart. I always thought he was no good from the start. And now he's even beating his wife." I smiled and looked at him for a long time before snuggling into his arms and teasing him on purpose. "Cheng Mu, you wouldn't treat me like this in the future, would you?" Upon hearing this, Cheng Mu immediately swore he wouldn't, then leaned in to kiss me. "How could I ever treat you like that? I love you so much. In these 4 years, forget about hitting you. Have I ever said a single harsh word to you? Our home has always been yours to rule." Hearing this, I burst into laughter. It was just a joke after all. I trusted him completely, otherwise, after the failure of my previous marriage, I wouldn't have resolutely walked into the marriage hall with him this time. After this incident, Hu Cheng's book signing events were suspended, and organizers in other cities successively proposed cancellations. At first, Hu Cheng faced readers' curses and harassment at home, but as the hype died down, he gradually faded into obscurity. I didn't feel anything about it, but unexpectedly, Hu Cheng showed up at the gate of my villa a few days later. Now he looked gaunt and unshaven, drenched like a drowned rat in the rain outside. Completely different from his former confident self. "Why are you here?" I was slightly startled. This was a private villa area where every visitor was thoroughly checked. How did he manage to find his way here? Hu Cheng's eyes lit up visibly when he saw me appear, and he blurted out in a flustered tone, I just had someone look into it. A reporter said your husband's car comes back here every day." Cheng Mu was away on a business trip and not at home, gripping the door cautiously. I stayed alert, ready to flee if he made any sudden moves, but Hu Cheng merely froze for a moment at my guarded expression before pressing his lips together and stating his reason for coming. I asked Shen Nan, if I weren't with her, how she would take me back from you. Looking at his expression full of regret, I could already guess what Shen Nan had said. Sure enough, Hu Cheng spoke the next moment. She said she would stop at nothing. When I pressed for specifics, she actually admitted she'd frame you. Hu Cheng spoke through tears, and at this point he could no longer contain his emotions, swearing to me amidst his sobs, "I hit her just because I was too angry. Jiang Li, I would never do that to you." "I believe you." My expression conveyed belief, and Hu Cheng's eyes lit up. Thinking this was my willingness to reconcile, he staggered forward a couple of steps. "So you..." I shrugged my shoulders. "Because you'll never have the chance to abuse me. I'm Cheng Mu's wife now. What does that have to do with you?" Upon hearing this, Hu Cheng trembled violently and actually knelt down slowly to apologize to me. He kept kowtowing and admitting his mistakes. "I'm sorry, I was really wrong. Jiang Li, the one I truly love is still you. Why won't you believe me? Won't you even give me one chance?" But all that greeted him was the sound of me slamming the door violently. Only after closing the door did I feel slightly at ease. "Hu Cheng, I will never forgive you, and don't you ever come bothering me again." Since that day, Hu Cheng came by a few more times, but I had the neighborhood security called on him each time. Later, I asked the property management to keep an extra eye out, and he never showed up again. A few days later, Cheng Mu returned and heard about this incident, and he was absolutely beside himself with worry. Not long after that, Hu Cheng actually had another scandal. After the domestic violence against his wife, he was exposed for continuously harassing his ex-girlfriend. Online criticism against him flared up again, with many trolls deliberately stirring the pot. I glanced at Cheng Mu pretending nothing happened, then deliberately picked up the soup spoon from dinner and held it out like a microphone. "President Cheng, may I ask your thoughts on the recent trending news?" Cheng Mu perfectly feigned innocence. "What trending news? I've been spending time with my wife lately. Stop playing dumb." Cheng Mu, I gave him an annoyed flick on the forehead, knowing full well he was behind this. Without his orders, Hu Cheng's harassment footage wouldn't have gone viral. Especially since those major marketing accounts leading the charge all have shares in Cheng Corporation, nobody would believe Cheng Mu wasn't involved. I just can't stand him. Now he's setting his sights on you. If we don't teach him a lesson, what's to stop him from coming back? We're already married. What more does he want? He's lucky we didn't have him taken out. Listening to Cheng Mu's words, I couldn't help but hug him, patting and teasing him affectionately. "Calm down, Mr. Cheng. We live in a society governed by law. Don't resort to illegal methods." Cheng Mu was quite pleased with my attitude. His ruffled feathers were instantly smoothed. Even without traditional means, I can still ruin his reputation. I was about to respond when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Hu Cheng. Cheng Mu saw it too and answered the call irritably the next moment. "Hello, you're calling again. What? Okay, I got it." Watching his expression shift from impatience to surprise, I felt slightly puzzled. Cheng Mu explained. "That was a police officer calling. He said Hu Cheng was hit by a car and left half paralyzed. He wants to see me right now." "What happened?" "Half paralyzed." Frowning deeply, I pressed for details. It turned out someone had deliberately tried to kill Hu Cheng. The murderer was after his life from the very beginning. Fortunately, a passerby pulled him away when the incident occurred, preventing him from actually dying. As for who the criminal is, it's not appropriate to disclose that information. After exchanging a glance with Cheng Mu, I agreed, thinking it might be the last time we'd see each other. "Jiang Li, you're here." In the hospital room, Hu Cheng, now seated in a wheelchair, became visibly emotional upon seeing me and struggled to wheel himself over. I knew you still had feelings for me. As he spoke these words, he struggled to shuffle toward me. Watching his stroke-like movements, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow, yet instinctively stepped aside, revealing Cheng Mu standing outside the door. You'll forgive. Hu Cheng's next words were instantly choked in his throat as I stared coldly at him. I heard you have something to say to me. Hu Cheng's gaze shifted between the two of us, his mouth opening and closing without words. It seemed he had turned my willingness to come into a gamble, testing whether I still had feelings for him. Believing my presence meant I still loved him. I simply thought he was being naive, seeing he had nothing more to say. I prepared to leave. Jiang Li. As I was about to go, Hu Cheng called out to me again, hoping to speak with me alone. Cheng Mu snorted coldly and disappeared outside the door, whispering that I should call him if anything happened. He'd always be there. I nodded, reassuring him with my gaze. Only after Cheng Mu left did Hu Cheng begin to ramble on about how guilty he felt toward me, tears streaming down his face. It's all my fault, in our past life. If it weren't for Shun Nan harming me and driving a wedge between us, we would have had such a happy ending. Jiang Li, I can't let you go. Even being hit by Shun Nan like this is what I deserve. I secretly clicked my tongue, thinking Shun Nan was truly ruthless. Even before the police revealed anything, I had vaguely suspected it was either Shun Nan or some deranged reader. Hu Cheng rambled on about the incident. Apparently, Shun Nan had fled the scene immediately after hitting him. But she must have lacked experience, because she was caught that very night. Hu Cheng mentioned she had been driving toward my neighborhood, which sent a chill down my spine when I heard it. What would be the consequences if this wasn't caught? Hu Cheng didn't notice this, still weeping uncontrollably as he claimed to have atoned. Please, give me another chance. Jiang Li, facing his tearful plea, I shook my head slightly. Your atonement has nothing to do with me. I could never forgive the man who labeled me based on hearsay. Do you have anything else to say? Hu Cheng froze momentarily, finding himself at a loss for words. Seeing him like this, I turned and walked away. Hu Cheng tried to chase after me but couldn't catch up, shouting frantically behind me. Do you really think Cheng Mu loves you? He'll abandon you once the novelty wears off. Aren't all rich people just like that? I paused mid-step and glanced back slightly. That's none of your concern. Just as I stepped out of the hospital room, I spotted Cheng Mu eavesdropping by the wall and couldn't help but find it amusing. He angrily scolded Hu Cheng for spreading rumors, which made me stifle a laugh. Cheng Mu warned that if he kept making up stories about him like this, he'd paralyze him completely, leaving him to live on liquid food for the rest of his life. I stood on tiptoe and patted his head, saying, yes, yes, our CEO Cheng is the most impressive. Cheng Mu's face turned slightly red, but he still held my hand as we flirted our way home together. After that, I didn't hear from Hu Cheng for a long time. When I inquired again, I heard he had already committed suicide. The police delivered a suicide note he left for me, but I burned it without even reading it. The world lost one Mr. Hu the writer, but it made no difference to me. I had long moved on and started a new life. Now we move on to the second story. After rebirth, Cheng Tian thought I would obediently give up my chance to study abroad for his stepsister. In reality, I immediately went to the visa center to submit my application. When he couldn't afford meals, I pretended not to see. He was secretly having an affair with Ji Qing behind my back. I retaliated by exposing their cheating photos to the public, all because in my previous life, I took care of his paralyzed father and raised our infant son, yet he left alone for distant lands. The reason was that getting married too early deprived him of the freedom to enjoy his single life. Yet Ji Qing lived a sweet married life with him. Even my son, whom I raised for 18 years, recognized Ji Qing as his mother. In this life, I want neither the scumbag nor the ungrateful son. Staring at the voluntary waiver of government-sponsored study abroad opportunity commitment letter in my hand, I felt somewhat dazed. I had been reborn, and the realization made my nose sting with emotion. Suppressing the urge to shed tears, I tore the commitment letter into shreds and threw it into the trash can. Lin Qiu watched my smooth, practiced movements with astonishment. Incredulously, she asked me, "You're not giving it to Professor Shen anymore?" I nodded. No, I'm not. Lin Qiu excitedly grabbed my hand. Good thing I came with you. I had a feeling. Today I'd finally convince you not to throw away your future for that scumbag. The scumbag Lin Qiu was referring to was my boyfriend, or rather, my fiancé, Cheng Tian. I've been secretly dating him since high school, hiding it from our parents. He stayed by my side through the darkest days after my parents died in a car accident, so I always believed I'd spend my whole life happily with him, from campus to wedding gown. However, I smiled and tightly grasped Lin Qiu's hand in return. Thank you, Xiao Qiu, I'm the top student in our department. Why should I hand over such a great opportunity to someone else? Destiny should be in my own hands. I shouldn't let others, especially men, dictate my thoughts. Lin Qiu was genuinely delighted to hear me say that and immediately hooked her arm through mine, insisting on treating me to milk tea. As I followed her toward the school gate, I couldn't help but glance around at every little detail of C University. How many years had passed since my last visit to campus? In my past life, I had given up my chance for a government-sponsored study abroad program just because of Cheng Tian's few words. It's not exactly someone else. This person is Cheng Yu, the daughter of my stepmother. Cheng Yu and I weren't close because she'd always been jealous that I consistently outperformed her academically, especially after Teacher Shen announced that the top student would get a government-funded opportunity to study for a master's degree in the UK. Her resentment toward me reached its peak then. Actually, I don't really care, but he kept saying, Xiao Ran, Yeye is my sister. And her mother passed away a few years ago. She's so pitiful. If she loses this opportunity, she'll definitely commit suicide. You know Yeye has depression. I lowered my head and didn't speak. He continued to persuade me. But you still have me. We'll get married and have many babies. Even if you don't study abroad, we'll be very happy. Seeing my expression waver slightly, Chen Tian immediately knelt on the ground, picked up a random pull tab from the grass, and slipped it onto my finger. Xiao Ran, I love you, marry me, and I'll make you happy forever. I agreed, and then wrote the voluntary waiver of state-sponsored study abroad opportunity commitment letter. Today is the day I'm preparing to submit this commitment letter to Teacher Shen. Only the Cheng Tian family and Lin Qiu know about this matter. I didn't inform Teacher Shen in advance, because I was constantly worried that Teacher Shen would try to persuade me if he found out, and I might change my mind again. So I decided to act first and explain later. This also made it easier for me in this life to avoid having to explain everything to Teacher Shen, no longer having to face Teacher Shen's disappointed gaze. I was sucking hard on the boba pearls at the milk tea shop while listening to Lin Qiu vent her righteous indignation about Cheng Tian. She said, Cheng Tian is nothing but a rotten man, a worthless cucumber, all looks and no substance, with a malicious and stupid mind. You're just lucky to have met a kind-hearted and gullible girl like you. I bit the straw and laughed out loud. To put it nicely, she's kind and gullible. In reality, she's utterly foolish. In my past life, shortly after I gave up my study abroad opportunity, I quickly got married to him. We didn't have a wedding ceremony or hold a banquet. He said, honey, I don't have money right now, and I don't want to spend yours on these ceremonies. What would that say about my dignity as a man? But don't worry. Once I have the money, I'll definitely give you the grandest wedding. I waited for that wedding my entire life. When our son was 4 years old, Cheng Tian graduated with a master's degree and was assigned to work in X City. X City is very far from our home, taking 7 hours by high-speed rail. I didn't want the family to be separated. So I suggested we all go together, but he said to me, I married you so early that I've hardly had any time to enjoy being single. Now that I finally have the chance, just give me some space and freedom. But didn't I also get married early and give up my studies for it? Wasn't I the one who shouldered the responsibility of taking care of the family alone? No one cared about my feelings. He left for distant lands with his luggage just a few days later, leaving me with our child and his father who is bedridden with paralysis. I tirelessly take care of this household. You want space, you want freedom, I give them to you. But reality soon slapped me in the face again. Ji Qing resigned from the private art exam tutoring institution and followed Cheng Tian to X City. This matter was actually told to me by Lin Chiu, whom I hadn't been in contact with for a long time, in my previous life. My insistence on giving up my study abroad opportunity to Cheng Yu completely disappointed Lin Chiu. We hadn't been in contact for years, yet she still quietly kept an eye on me. She had long told me that Cheng Tian had an ambiguous relationship with Ji Qing, but I always deceived myself. Believing that Cheng Tian truly loved me, after finishing the milk tea, I returned home. It's called home, but the painful time I've spent here has far exceeded the happy moments. I didn't cook. Nor did I pay attention to someone whimpering my name in the room. I was just sitting on the sofa, looking around. In my previous life, I raised my son alone here until he turned 18. During the summer vacation after his college entrance exams, he said he wanted to go visit Cheng Tian. I had no reason to refuse. Over the years, the number of times Cheng Tian and I met could be counted on one hand. He wouldn't let me go, and he hardly ever came back himself, so we maintained this marriage in name only. Pathetic, isn't it? But I thought at least I still had my son. But as summer vacation was about to end and school was starting soon, I called to ask when he would be back. Yet he told me, "I'm happier here with Dad," so I changed my college preference to X City. Then the call was abruptly hung up. Later, he and Tian Geching became more like family. He doesn't even come back during winter and summer vacations. He would change broken light bulbs for Ji Qing, fix leaky faucets, and disassemble and clean air conditioners that hadn't been serviced for a long time. I didn't know when he grew up so much. Has he already become this sensible? At home, he's always the one sitting on the couch playing video games. When I ask him to lift his feet while mopping the floor, he gets angry and yells at me. He even directly calls Ji Qing Mom. That year during Chinese New Year, when I called him, he impatiently said there was nothing to talk about and hung up first. Perhaps I was too hasty and didn't hang up the phone. Holding my phone, I couldn't bear to end the call either. I wanted to hear my son's voice a little longer. Unexpectedly, I heard a completely different, cheerful voice coming from the other end. Nothing like how he spoke to me. He said, "Mom, I wish you a happy new year, and may you and Dad become a happily married couple soon." I confronted him about it, but he said righteously, "Actually, Mom Geching knew Dad first, if you hadn't stolen him away. I should have been born from her womb, so what's wrong with me calling her Mom?" The sound of the door opening snapped me out of my memories. He was tall and had very upright features. Definitely the kind of guy who'd be popular with both elders and women in the matchmaking scene. I was no exception in my past life, and now, seeing him again, I can only think of him as hypocritical. Upon hearing the moans from inside the room, his first reaction wasn't to go in and see what was wrong. Instead, he confronted me. "How have you been taking care of Dad?" I found it ridiculous. His filial piety never goes beyond lip service, standing on moral high ground, criticizing me for not doing enough or not doing well enough, while all he needs to do is be an absentee manager. Sitting on the couch directing operations, watching me run around exhausted till I can't straighten my back, I sneered disdainfully. "That's your father, not mine." I could clearly sense the surge of anger rushing to his head. But soon he adjusted his breathing and loosened his clenched fist. He should remember that today I went to school to submit the letter of commitment, voluntarily giving up the public-funded study abroad opportunity, perhaps thinking that's why I'm in a bad mood, thoughtfully saying to me, all right, I'll go take care of Dad for you. You rest, help me." What laughable words those are. His paralyzed father lying in bed, he went to take care of him, yet claimed it was helping me. I didn't cook. And the excuse remained, "I'm tired from school today." He couldn't cook either, so we ended up ordering takeout. While paying the bill, he kept sneaking glances at me. Perhaps he was wondering why I hadn't proactively offered to pay for him today. I pretended not to notice and started playing Candy Crush on my phone. After dinner, he wanted to get intimate, but I refused, using my period as an excuse, because I still remember clearly. It was that night of intimacy in my past life that made me conceive that ungrateful son of mine. In fact, I suffer from polycystic ovary syndrome. This was accidentally discovered during a routine health checkup. At that time, I was just a freshman in college and didn't have any plans for children with Cheng Tian. At that time, he even joked, "If you can't get pregnant, doesn't that mean we don't need to use condoms? Without proper ovulation, pregnancy is impossible, so for the past few months, I've been secretly going to the hospital for treatment. I started taking hormone medications and occasionally receiving injections. Dizziness and nausea have been constant companions. Occasionally during meals, I'd suddenly rush to the bathroom and vomit into the toilet. I'd even joke casually all day. Could it be pregnancy? Seems my sperm quality is so good it might cure your illness. If hospitals were willing to pay top dollar for my sperm as medicine, I'd be happy to oblige. I will never forget the fear and anxiety I felt when the doctor reached into my uterus during the examination, and the excruciating pain when the nurse pressed down during the X-ray. Perhaps I am lucky, because many more people cannot conceive a child relying solely on basic examinations and medication. They will suffer greater pain, surgery may be required, but from certain perspectives, I am also unfortunate, because I gave birth to a son. The son who treats the woman that ruined my marriage with Chen Tian as his mother, the son who would advise his father to divorce me as soon as possible. He still doesn't understand Chen Tian well enough. Chen Tian doesn't refuse to divorce me because he doesn't want to, he just can't swallow his pride. Just because of the grand vows he made back then, wanting to inherit the legacy left by my parents, making him, who prides himself on being a scholar, hesitate due to his own pride. Unable to bring himself to say it, he hopes I will be the one to initiate the divorce, that way he wouldn't have to bear any responsibility. By that time he no longer needed me at all. I was growing old and had lost all usefulness. Cheng Tian's father was also taken away by Cheng Tian. Ji Qing wanted to show Cheng Tian what a filial daughter-in-law she was. Unlike me, always complaining about how hard it is to take care of my father-in-law, she even introduced her own mother, a former actress in a song and dance troupe, to her father-in-law. Just as he was about to step into the grave, my father-in-law found love again. Of course, he moved out immediately. Never mind all these years I've taken care of him, even slurring his words, he had to call me useless as he left. It was his son who came to pick up his grandfather. My son said, "Since you're the only one left here anyway, why don't you sell the house and give me the money as a wedding gift? When are you getting married?" I asked, somewhat flustered. "None of your business. Just think about it. I'm leaving now." With that, he rolled his eyes and walked away without looking back. I grabbed his arm. "I'm going to let everyone know about the inappropriate relationship between your father and Ji Qing." He angrily shook me off, and I tumbled down the stairs. Just before I completely lost consciousness, I heard him making a phone call. This woman fell down the stairs. "You're done for now. Serves you right, Mom. You're just too kind. She's been occupying what wasn't hers all along, causing you and Dad to never be able to be together openly." While Cheng Tian was busy calling Ji Qing all day, I went into the room and locked the door from the inside. He thought I didn't know he spent an hour on the phone with Ji Qing every night. Or maybe he just didn't care what I thought. Anyway, after I gave up the opportunity to study abroad for his sister, my usefulness has diminished by half again. In my past life, I gave almost everything for the sake of the Tian family. I didn't have many friends because I simply had no time to make any. I had to rush home after school to cook, clean, and take care of Tian's father. Taking care of a paralyzed adult man is anything but easy. I originally intended to hire a caregiver, but both father and son insisted that having me was enough. Cheng Tian's father kept calling me a good-for-nothing woman. He doesn't even stop to think that he and Cheng Tian now have a roof over their heads and food on the table. It's all thanks to the inheritance left by my parents. Cheng Tian gets one room, his father gets another. As for me, apart from helping Cheng Tian satisfy his physical needs, the rest of the time, he had to sleep on the floor in his father's room, so I could take care of him anytime, to tend to him when he was thirsty, hungry, or had an accident in bed. This arrangement came about after his stepmother passed away and his stepsister left for college. No one remembers that I was once a delicate young girl who never had to lift a finger. Not even I pity myself anymore, who would take me seriously then. But since heaven has given me a chance to live again, of course, I can't repeat the miserable life of my past. I've scheduled an appointment to apply for a visa in 5 days. It's an expedited visa. I've booked the flight ticket and student accommodation. At most another half-month, I'll be completely gone from here. I fell asleep. In my daze, I seemed to hear Cheng Tian twisting the doorknob. No success. But he didn't dare to shout either, because in others' eyes, he was a perfect model husband. I don't know if he would sleep under his father's bed. I guess not. Because every time he sees me cleaning his father's feces and urine off his body, he looks so disgusted as if he's about to vomit the next second. What a good son. I left early the next morning. As I expected, he slept on the sofa all day. I went to school to get some documents stamped. I happily envisioned a wonderful life abroad with Teacher Shen, and I told her she must come visit me. She looked at me with loving eyes. Xiao Ran, I was truly afraid you'd give up this opportunity. I was taken aback. I thought Teacher Shen knew nothing about it. She had seen everything all along. Once again, my eyes welled up with tears. Professor Shen, don't worry. I won't abandon my original life path for anyone again. On my way home, I ran into Ji Qing. Ji Qing is a woman with graceful poise. She may not be considered a stunning beauty, but her almond-shaped eyes possess a unique charm. She works as a music teacher at a private art examination training institution and boasts a beautiful voice. When she coos with her nightingale-like tones, it's no wonder Cheng Tian fell head over heels in love with her. I'm not interested in talking to her any further. After all, from the day I was reborn, we weren't even rivals anymore, but she persistently blocked my way. Ji Ran, how come you didn't even greet me when you saw me? Is this how your parents taught you to behave? Oh sorry, I forgot your parents are already dead. She giggled after saying it. I clenched my fist. Yet I didn't want to risk a brawl's bad reputation right before going abroad. Seeing my silence, she changed the subject. I heard you gave your study abroad opportunity to Cheng Yu. Do you know what Cheng Yu calls me? She calls me sister-in-law. Are you trying to bribe Cheng Tian's family with the opportunity to study abroad? Let me tell you, you're daydreaming. I asked her, aren't you afraid I'll expose your improper relationship with Cheng Tian to the public? She stared at me as if she had seen some kind of monster. I'm not afraid, though. Even if I lose my job, I can still rely on Cheng Tian every day. Oh, of course. Using the money your parents left behind after their early death. But if this affects Cheng Tian's future, guess, will he still marry you? She thought I was still that Ji Ran who couldn't live without Cheng Tian for a single day. After returning, I immediately started packing my bags. I didn't want to stay here for even a moment longer, but I know I must have enough patience, saying I'm packing my bags, but truthfully, I don't have much to pack. I used to be a girl who loved buying pretty clothes. How long has it been since I last bought new clothes? Just past 20. I've already become a complete mess. Perhaps the me from my past life began dying at 20, coming home late every single day. I knew he was going to rent a room with Ji Qing. I also know about the hourly rate hotels they've been staying at, because he's been broke all the time. He relies on the living allowance I give him every month to get by. This year marks his third attempt at the postgraduate entrance exam. He pretends to study diligently in the study room every day. Actually, it's because the study room is in the same building as the training center where Ji Qing works, making it convenient for them to secretly meet and whisper sweet nothings. If only I hadn't suffered so much because of them. I'm almost moved to sing praises of their great love. The first time I learned they were checking into hotels was because the hotel they frequented happened to be owned by Lin Qiu's family. She had observed that shameless couple multiple times before cautiously telling me about it. This nickname represents Lin Qiu's disgust towards them. I remember how I felt when I heard about this incident in my past life. Pain mixed with self-deceptive avoidance. I ran away, then pretended to know nothing and went home to make supper for Cheng Tian, who returned late. Of course, he wouldn't have anything to eat tonight. When he walked into the kitchen and found the fridge empty, he couldn't help but confront me. I said, if you're so capable, why don't you get your dad out of bed to cook for you? Cheng Tian stammered you for ages but couldn't get another word out. I think he wanted to swear, but I said, you're an intellectual, and intellectuals shouldn't use foul language. I couldn't be bothered to look at his trembling body in anger. So I casually took out my phone from my pocket and started ordering takeout. Of course, I didn't order anything for him. Anyway, he couldn't swallow his pride. Wasn't he just pretending to be dumb? as if I couldn't do the same. This time I entered his room openly and honestly. No, wait. The entire house is mine. I locked the door and continued packing my luggage. It had been many days since I last stepped into Chengqian's father's room. I had no idea how he managed his daily needs, eating, drinking, and other necessities. I'm neither curious nor concerned, but even the closed door couldn't block the stench of urine and foul odor wafting from his room. I must get out of here as soon as possible. Chengqian didn't dare confront me about what he must have seen as my unusual behavior these past few days. Besides being cultured, it's also because he's broke. I know him. His most honest and considerate days are when he's broke, even though he couldn't scrape together 2 coins from his pocket. He still insisted on booking a few days a week with Ji Qing for hotel rooms, a 2-hour quickie in a rented room, done and dusted. These were also told to me by Lin Qiu. One cannot even empathize with their past self. I thought about how in my past life I refused to believe all of this. Perhaps afraid of what would happen if this matter were exposed. He'll be completely gone from me all day long. So I always tell Lin Qiu, maybe he just went to consult Ji Qing about his studies. A computer science student consulting a music teacher preparing for art exams about academic knowledge. Lin Qiu looked at me like I was insane. I'm really quite neurotic. So in this lifetime, when Lin Qiu saw me so decisively cutting ties with Chengqian, she acted even more emotional than I did. She accompanied me to the visa center. Everything was settled in just 5 minutes. The staff said the visa could be issued within 5 working days. 10 days. Just 10 more days, and I'll leave this place that's trapped me my entire life, Lin Qiu said. I don't think it's enough to just not give the spot to Chengyu. You should go to Ji Qing's workplace and expose her improper relationship with Cheng Tian to everyone. Who would want someone like her, a mistress, teaching their children? Once she loses her job, Ji Qing will behave herself. I smiled. Wouldn't that be letting Cheng Tian off too easily? If it weren't for constantly chasing after Ji Qing makes quite a bit as an art exam teacher, so why would she stoop to being the other woman for a man who couldn't pass grad school exams in 3 years and whose pockets are as empty as his face? Lin Qiu thought for a moment. Then let the scumbag and the mistress die together. I think Ji Qing is indeed despicable, but the most damnable thing was still Chen Tian, the visa, along with my passport. Smoothly arrived at Professor Shen's office on the 5th business day, I walked towards the school with light steps. 5 more days. My communication frequency with Chen Tian these days was almost 0, because I'm not at home most of the time. I lock the house I'm currently living in before going out. I don't want to be seen packing my luggage all day. It's also to avoid having to sleep on the floor in his father's room or share a room with him. He called me, and I casually said I was working. I said, "You haven't passed the postgraduate entrance exam in 3 years. If I don't go out to earn money, should we just stay at home and starve together?" He was silent for a few seconds, then spoke just as I was about to hang up. "I knew you've always minded me eating and living off you. Fine, I'll just give up on grad school." This was a threat that seems utterly ridiculous now, but in my past life, it had me completely under its thumb. I knew Cheng Tian had strong self-esteem. So every time he showed that I knew it look of sadness, I would always be the first to comfort him. If he fails the exam in 1 year, I'll encourage him to try again the next year. He said spending my money makes him feel guilty, so I told him what's mine is his, and what's his is mine, but he has nothing. Only my bedridden father remains, and my stepsister who took my study abroad spot while calling me a bitch behind my back, plus him, this spineless, ungrateful leech who can't even keep his male virtues intact. He probably thinks I'll rush to explain myself like always, insisting I never blamed him, then transfer him the money and tell him to spend it however he wants. But I didn't. I said, "As long as you know I mind, it's fine. If you can't pass the exam, just don't take it, go out and work earlier." After saying that, I hung up the phone. The ID photo taken for the visa application wasn't flattering, but to me, it felt like a liberating relief after surviving a disaster. On my way back, I ran into Cheng Tian and Ji Qing. They had just walked out of Lin Qiu's family hotel. Ji Qing was even holding onto Cheng Tian's arm. They looked so distant. I never knew the city was this vast. Why did they have to choose the very path I take home every day for their secret rendezvous? Perhaps they thought I wouldn't notice, but more likely, even if I found out, there wouldn't be much I could do, after all. I loved Chengtian with all my heart. How could I ever leave him? Watching their retreating figures, I couldn't help but let my thoughts run wild. I guess Tiancheng still has money after all. Otherwise, how could he afford it when I haven't sent him living expenses for 10 days? Yet he still had money to book a hotel room. Of course, it's also possible that Ji Qing paid for it. The income of teachers at art exam training classes shouldn't be low per month. Someone ran past me and then bumped into me hard. I heard a familiar voice shouting bro, then joined up with the two people ahead. I barely managed to maintain my balance and avoid falling. Chengyu turned her head and glared at me fiercely. Chengtian and Ji Qing finally noticed I was right behind them. I glanced at them. Chengtian froze for a few seconds before speaking. Xiaoran. Teacher Ji twisted her ankle, so I was just helping her. Their hands remained clasped together. I couldn't be bothered to respond. I simply walked towards them and stopped in front of Chengyu. I stared fixedly at Chengyu. Don't you know to apologize when you bump into someone? Chengyu apparently didn't expect that I, who had always been submissive, would publicly embarrass her. She stomped her foot angrily. Why should I apologize to you? Who do you think you are? I replied expressionlessly. I'm the generous benefactor who pays for your food, drinks, clothes, and entertainment. If I'm nobody, then what does that make you? Fuming with rage, Chengyu complained to Chengtian. Brother, look at her attitude. When she insults me, she's insulting you and our father too. Chengyu always manages to shift the conflicts between us and escalate them into me being dissatisfied with the entire Cheng family. Guotian indeed furrowed his brows. Jiran, how could you speak to Yaya like that? You should apologize to her. I slightly raised an eyebrow. She bumped into me. Why should I apologize to her? Chengtian sighed and said self-righteously. Yaya is still young, just a child. Why do you always have to argue with her? People really do laugh when they're speechless. Young, do I need to show you my ID to prove that Chengyu is actually a year and 3 months older than me? Chengtian opened his mouth but couldn't find the words to say. Xiaoran, you're always so domineering. That's why Chengtian never wants to share his true feelings with you. Ji Qing suddenly interjected. So he prefers to communicate feelings with you in hotels, is that it? I shifted my gaze to her face. If you enjoy being a trash can, go ahead. I don't share that hobby or have the time for it. Many people had already stopped by the roadside, pretending to casually watch the argument among the four of us. Chengtian feared gossip more than anything, so he lowered his voice and said to me, Jiran, don't make a scene here. If you keep this up, I'll move out. I immediately replied, can we move tonight? Remember to bring your dad along. Upon hearing this, Chengyu blurted out, bitch, but before she could finish her insult, Ji Qing stopped her. Truth be told, Ji Qing didn't like this utterly ill-mannered stepsister Chengyu either, but her persona is the perfect confidant and white moonlight in the hearts of Chengyu and Chengtian. She certainly knows that Chengyu cursing me now is just venting momentary resentment, but she's also afraid of what might happen if I really kick them out. After all, Chengtian hasn't yet obtained my parents' inheritance, so I still have some use left. Ji Qing softly coaxed the Cheng siblings away with gentle words. Auntie Li, the owner of the fruit shop by the street, called out to stop me. Xiaoran, Auntie has watched you grow up since you were little. Auntie doesn't want to lie to you. So I'll tell you straight today. Aunt Li looked hesitant, yet seemed to have made up her mind about something. We often see him checking into rooms here all day with that seductress. You need to be more careful. How many men can resist the temptations of a seductress like Ji Qing? After speaking, Aunt Li even shot her husband a glare. I knew she meant well, so I smiled at her. Everyone already knew, only I remained trapped in the cage I had built for myself. If I don't save myself, no one would reach out to pull me out. When I returned home, day after day, month after month, Ji Qing and I sat crowded together in the small living room. Ji Qing's expression was filled with disgust. I knew it was because the room reeked of feces and urine. Now it's mixed with Ji Qing's perfume scent. It's even more nauseating. Chengtian and Chengyu, however, remain unfazed. Perhaps compared to foul odors, they're even less willing to take care of a father who eats, drinks, and relieves himself in bed. The moment Ji Qing saw me, she immediately confronted me sharply. Haven't you been taking good care of Uncle Cheng lately? I gave a mocking smile. Did his son die? Did his daughter die too? When will it be my turn to take care of you? Cheng Yu was like a powder keg ready to explode at the slightest touch, lunging at me to throw punches. I noticed Ji Qing's lips curling into a smirk of schadenfreude. Too bad I dodged just in time. Cheng Yu bumped headfirst into the clothes rack beside her. A plastic clothes rack, not particularly sharp either, yet Cheng Yu sat on the floor clutching her head, moaning incessantly as if she were bleeding. Murder, murder, Cheng Yu screamed, pushing me away all day long. My knee slammed hard into the corner of the wooden coffee table. It hurt so much I almost cried out. Jiran, I never realized before what a vicious woman you are. You're trying to kill Yeye, my own sister. Cheng Tian's eyes were filled with accusation. Completely forgetting that it was Cheng Yu who tried to hit me first, all I did was dodge. Ji Qing immediately added fuel to the fire upon seeing this. Jiran, I didn't believe it when others said it before. I never thought you could be so venomous. You even cursed the entire Tian family to die. What man would dare to want a woman as terrifying as you? I sat on the sofa, rubbing my still throbbing knee with my hand. She forced a smile. Cheng Tian, don't you know he's been dying to marry me? Cheng Yu instantly forgot the excruciating pain she should be feeling in her head at that moment. What an irresponsible actress. She jumped up to confront me. That's only because you were going to give me the opportunity to study abroad, so my brother had no choice but to marry you. Do you really think my brother would like you? He likes Sister Qingqing. Ji Qing covered her mouth and chuckled. Yeah, don't talk nonsense, or Jiran will really get jealous later. Cheng Tian saw that Cheng Yu was fine and also breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to argue against Cheng Yu's words. After all, they were all true, but he still said to me in a disappointed tone, Xiaoran, just because you gave up your study abroad opportunity to Yeye doesn't mean you can act unreasonably. I've already agreed to marry you. What more do you want? It's always been more suitable for Yeyueto go abroad than you. You've never been abroad and don't have any friends. How would you communicate with foreigners if you went? Being a housewife suits you best. I thought you understood that. So these were his true feelings after all. I never thought he saw me that way before. I don't have many friends because I'm always busy with household chores. There's also a heavy academic workload. It's not that I didn't have opportunities to study abroad before. I was originally going to join the graduation trip organized by my classmates, but Cheng Tian kept saying, who will take care of Dad if you leave, and forced me to stay, yet Cheng Yu spent half a month abroad with our classmates using my money. After returning, she made me give up my study abroad opportunity for her. In my past life, it was as if my eyes were blinded by the mud in a swamp. I blindly tried to win Cheng Tian's approval through constant sacrifice. I believed my life only had value if Cheng Tian liked me. That's not how it is. Leaving him was the new beginning of my life. Seeing me silent all day, he thought it was another victory for him, just like every victory in the past. So he never knows when to quit. He kept rambling on. I've put up with you for days now. Dad's room stinks to high heaven. It's about time you cleaned it up. When we got back just now, Dad was still crying. Qingqing barely managed to soothe him to sleep. Hurry up and fetch hot water to wash Dad later, then cook dinner for us. By the way, you should still sleep on the floor in Dad's room tonight to make it easier to take care of him. If it weren't for the fact that I'm leaving here in 5 days, I don't want to cause more conflicts to avoid unnecessary complications. Right now, I should just slap him to shut him up. I took a deep breath and looked at the shamelessly self-righteous expressions on their 3 faces. Your father needs care. You go take care of him. He requires 24-hour supervision. You can sleep in his room, if that's really too much. You can even stay in his room together with Ji Qing and Cheng Yu. Every word I spoke made Cheng Tian's expression grow darker. You 4 are such a loving family. Why keep bothering an outsider like me? As soon as I finished speaking, Cheng Tian seemed to seize upon my words like a lifeline, or perhaps he thought he'd caught me in a slip of the tongue. Because he immediately said, I knew you were jealous of Qingqing. I've told you how many times. Ching and I have been neighbors since childhood. She's taken care of me a lot, and whenever I go to see her, it's to study with her. I couldn't even be bothered to roll my eyes. Just like how he couldn't even bother to come up with a slightly more believable excuse. You're a computer science major, yet you're studying with a music teacher in a hotel every single day. No wonder you couldn't pass the postgraduate entrance exam in 3 years. You might as well find another PE teacher to learn math from. With that, I took out my keys and opened the door. Before they could react, I entered the room and locked the door behind me. Cheng Yu was outside, cursing furiously in anger. The shouting woke up Cheng Tian's father in the next room, who was paralyzed but still refused to stay quiet, so it turned into a mixed doubles of cursing between the two of them. I put on my noise-cancelling headphones. As the world fell silent, I began to consider whether I should just find a hotel near the airport and stay for a few days. At the first light of dawn, I quietly opened the door and left with my luggage. I blocked the phone numbers of Cheng Tian and his entire family. I lay on the hotel bed for 2 days. It's been a long time since I felt so relaxed. Lin Xiu said she would come to see me off. I sent her the hotel address. But I never expected that when I opened the door to welcome her in, 3 more people suddenly rushed out from the corner of the stairs. Lin Xiu was even more surprised and flustered than I was. She quickly explained to me, "I didn't bring them here." I patted her hand reassuringly, then looked at Cheng Tian, who was out of breath. "Were you following Lin Qiulai?" Cheng Yu snorted and said, "I knew you were a scheming bitch. If I hadn't been smart enough to bring my brother and Ching along to follow this woman, so you really managed to escape." I genuinely didn't want to cause a scene with them in public, so I pulled Lin Xiu into the room and tried to shut the door. Cheng Tian probably learned his lesson this time. He suddenly extended his arm, wedging it into the narrowing gap of the closing door. For a moment, I didn't dare to use full force. "Jiran, what do you mean by this?" he questioned me. "Take it however you think I mean it. Brother, stop wasting your breath on this woman." Cheng Yu pushed her way in front of me, glaring at me fiercely. "Didn't you submit the letter of commitment voluntarily giving up the government-sponsored study abroad opportunity?" "I've already been to the school to ask about it. All those who are going abroad have already received their materials and are processing their visas." I nodded calmly. "Yes, I didn't submit them. So what, bro? I told you this bitch didn't have any good intentions." Cheng Yu was furious. Ji Qing stepped forward at this moment. "Xiaoran, didn't you promise to give the opportunity to Yeye? How can someone go back on their word?" "I don't recall making such a promise," I replied coldly. "But I only agreed to marry you because you said you'd give the chance to Yeye." At this moment, Cheng Tian's posture was indeed somewhat pathetic, yet he still wanted to stand on moral high ground and manipulate me. "Then don't get married," I replied without hesitation. The 3 people in front of me all changed their expressions, then they looked at me incredulously, because in the past, my only dream was to marry Cheng Tian. They used this matter to threaten me for a lifetime. Cheng Tian refused to believe it. The reality that the woman who had always followed him around suddenly didn't want him anymore. "Don't say things in anger, Jiran. As long as you're willing to give the opportunity to Yeye and apologize to Dad, and promise to take good care of him in the future, I'm still willing to marry you." I knew it was impossible to communicate normally with humans and 3 lunatics, so I directly showed them the door. "If you don't leave now, I'll have to call security." Cheng Yu immediately lunged to scratch my face, but Lin Xiu behind me took the opportunity to shove her, sending her stumbling. "To be honest with you, I'm going abroad tomorrow. I might not be coming back in the future. You'd better move out of my place soon, or I'll have someone help you leave." I thought it would be best to just lay it all out clearly for them. All 3 of them froze in shock. Cheng Tian even opened his mouth several times but couldn't utter a sound. It was Ji Qing who reacted first. She spoke to me in a reproachful and condescending tone. "What right do you have to kick Cheng Tian and uncle out? Just because my name is on the property deed? What a ridiculous question." Ji Qing didn't expect me to answer with such confidence either. Once again, I wanted to slam the door shut. Cheng Yu screamed relentlessly, "Your short-lived father and mother caused my dad to be paralyzed. How dare you, you bitch, have the nerve to kick us out? I can't stand it when people use foul language to insult my parents." But she continued to rant. Do you know why when my dad went out driving with your doomed parents, only my dad survived? It's because my dad has great fortune. Your dad and mom deserved it. If it weren't for my dad being your parents' driver, he wouldn't have ended up paralyzed. Yes, Chengtian's father was my parents' driver. My parents usually relied on Chengtian's father to drive them around for business meetings. That day, they went out and didn't come back until very late. I waited and waited, until the morning of the third day when I received a call from the police. They told me my parents had died in a car accident. His father barely survived, but the rest of his life will be spent in bed. His father claimed it was my parents arguing in the back seat of the car. He tried to intervene but didn't see the obstacle ahead, then he crashed into it. So all these years, apart from loving Chengtian, there's also my guilt. But Chengyu then immediately said, "You're just as ungrateful as your father and mother. My dad originally just wanted you to marry my brother. After marriage, all the money would be handed over to my brother. But your parents disagreed and even argued with my dad. My dad was just joking about going down together, but they actually fought over the steering wheel. That's what caused my dad's car accident. My brother was so good. It's your family who never knew how to be content. That's why they died young." It was the first time I learned the truth about the accident. They had the accident in a very remote place with no surveillance cameras. When my father woke up that day, my parents had already become two cold corpses. I believed whatever he said. This time, my hands trembled but I mercilessly slammed the door shut. He withdrew his arm in pain all day. His cries of pain and Chengyu Gaching's curses were all shut out by me beyond the bedroom door. I collapsed weakly onto the floor. Lin Qiu embraced me. She wanted to comfort me but didn't know what to say. Originally, I just wanted to leave this place and cut all ties with Chengtian and everyone else. But now, I'm going to make them all pay. I boarded the flight to the UK right on time, beginning my new life, a new school, a new city, a new country. All of this fills me with immense excitement. But I haven't forgotten my vow to make the Chengtian family pay. Chengtian's father is too old. There's no evidence. So it's hard to send him to jail, so I paid someone to go to his house when Chengtian wasn't home. They threw Chengtian's father out along with his bedding. They say he cried and made a scene at the door for an hour. The genius arrived fashionably late from the hotel. His father was both vomiting and urinating. A crowd had gathered around. They covered their noses while pointing and whispering, all day long. I want to argue with those people I hired to drive them out of the house, but seeing their strong bodies, I don't dare to step forward. Ji Qing tries to flirt with one of the men to seek help, but was shoved out by the man. Ji Qing fell flat on his face. His body was covered in the feces and urine his father had left behind all day. He screamed and fled my house, only leaving behind his dull father who pretended to be dead all day. Cheng Tian eventually dragged his father away, half pulling and half carrying him. Teacher Shen said Cheng Tian had come to school looking for her. He asked if she knew which university abroad I had specifically gone to. She was worried that Cheng Tian would come to cause trouble for me. I said indifferently, where would he get the money to come to England and find me? Teacher Shen first smiled, then couldn't help but sigh. Teacher never expected Cheng Tian and Chengyu's family to be such people. I shook my head. You may know a person's face but not their heart. I've lived with them for so many years and never noticed, of course. I'm not the kind of good person who'd be satisfied with just kicking them out of the house. I had Lin Qiu hire a few college students to distribute flyers at the institution where Ji Qing worked. The flyers featured photos of Ji Qing's daily affairs. It was taken by the private detective I hired. Accompanying the photos was my tearful accusation. The innocent college student learned about my ordeal. Not only did they help distribute flyers diligently, every time I meet someone, I have to spread the word about all the heartless things the Chengtian family has done. For example, how Chengtian's father caused my parents' deaths and escaped legal punishment, and how Chengtian repaid kindness with betrayal by having an affair with Ji Qing. As for Chengyu, she lived off me, ate my food, drank my drinks, yet still hurled insults at me. Utterly ungrateful, simply unworthy of being a college student. Rumors spread rapidly, naturally. The parents of the institution's students also refused to allow such a morally corrupt teacher to continue teaching. Not long after, Ji Qing was eventually dismissed by the institution as his personal misconduct scandal grew increasingly severe. All day long, after I stopped providing him with financial support, he could no longer comfortably prepare for the postgraduate entrance exam for the 4th time, and he hadn't worked a single day in the 3 years since graduation, without work experience. He naturally faced obstacles everywhere in his job search. He found a self-built house to temporarily live in with his father. I received emails from him. In the emails, he tearfully confessed his regrets. He truly loves me. All his previous actions were because he was bewitched by Ji Qing. If I'm willing, he could come to England to accompany me as my study partner. I turned around and forwarded the email to Ji Qing. Ji Qing, who had lost his job, was even more furious when he saw this letter. But they didn't break up. This was what Lin Qiu told me. However, Ji Qing gave Cheng Tian an ultimatum. If you still want to be with her, then kick out his bedridden father whose health is deteriorating day by day. Ji Qing still wants to be with Cheng Tian all day. Part of the reason is sunk cost, and another part was because she was pregnant. At that time, Cheng Tian took his father and moved out of their self-built house, settling into Ji Qing's home. Upon learning the news of Ji Qing's pregnancy, I sincerely prayed for them. I hope that ungrateful wretch I gave birth to in my past life, this lifetime, I must be born from her womb. I hope he suffers a life of hardship. May his days be filled with endless turmoil. Ji Qing's mother certainly couldn't have another passionate twilight romance with Cheng Tian's father in this lifetime. Every time Cheng Tian's father had an incontinence accident at home, Ji Qing would beat and kick him. It's said he even cried out to Cheng Tian in the middle of the night, "I still want Ji Ran to be my daughter-in-law." Cheng Tian quietly wept bitterly with his father, holding each other. Then he started thinking about me, recalling all those romance novels he had read month after month, feeling there might be practical possibilities. So he began emailing me again. One disgusting love letter after another flooded my inbox. Some were confessions, others declarations of love, before I blocked him. I received one final email. He said he dreamed that I hadn't gone abroad. We got married smoothly, and had a lovely son. He finally got admitted to graduate school, went to work in another city, and I stayed at home taking care of his father and children. He said he felt so happy in his dream. He missed me so much. I know he didn't tell the rest of the dream. Later, he and Ji Qing became de facto husband and wife in a foreign land. Leaving me alone at home, the child I raised recognized Ji Qing as his mother. In the end, he even pushed me down the stairs, leaving me to die with resentment. But fortunately, in this lifetime, it was all just a dream of his, no longer my life. I've personally changed my unfortunate life. I hope they torment each other until the day they die, Lin Qiu said. His father would rather get beaten every day than move out and live on his own. After all, he's someone who needs help with eating, drinking, and even using the toilet, all while confined to bed. The neighbors across the hall could hear their heart-wrenching screams and arguments every day. As long as I don't die, his father couldn't possibly live alone all day, and I know his health is quite robust. I hope he lives to at least 90, just like in his previous life. Only by living 100 years can we torment each other till death. As for Cheng Yu, I heard that after failing to go abroad, she just found some random job to work at. Within half a year, she got pregnant with the department manager's child, but the manager's son with his wife was already 20 years old. She still had the audacity to provoke the manager's wife by going to her doorstep, demanding that the other woman divorce to make way for her. As a result, she was pushed to the ground by the manager's son. She lost the child and nearly half her own life. She remembered sister Ji Qing, who had once been very kind to her, so she went to her door seeking help. Of course, she was turned away. That very day happened to be when Ji Qing's mother had pulled strings to get her a job as a project manager at a gaming company. Without hesitation, Cheng Yu stormed into the company and made a scene. Then Cheng Tian lost her job. Ji Qing and Cheng Yu got into a physical fight. Cheng Tian, who tried to intervene, was accidentally pushed down the stairs by them. He's a bit luckier than I was in my past life. He didn't die, just lost a leg. Now he can lie in bed with his father, rotting and stinking for the rest of their lives. This was his way of showing filial piety. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. See you in the next video.